Hi, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is a two-part show for the RavenCast and for Suzanne's latest project on Maria Montessori. Suzanne, do you want to tell us a little bit about your YouTube channel first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, I have gotten this crazy idea that I want to dramatize the life of Maria Montessori because I think it's the best way to get the message out about why she's so relevant for today, not just about her education method, but about transforming a culture of violence into a culture of peace. That was kind of her mission. Uh, it ended up being manifested through education, um, but the whole concept of how do you build a culture of peace is what drove her entire life.
And that's exactly what we're trying to do at the Raven Foundation, to use mimetic theory to build to help foster cultures of peace. And you say Maria Montessori was alive in the early 20th century?
Right. Yes, she was born in 1870 in Italy, and she died in 1952 in Holland.
Wow. And she was trying to build cultures of peace during World War One and World War Two, and all of these big events of war that were happening. And you say that she's relevant for today as well, not just in education, but in building cultures of peace. How is she relevant for today, do you think?
Well, I think she was a realist. As often as you can talk about her in very idealistic terms, and she often wrote uh, very spiritually, almost like a mystic would be writing. Um, she was very clear-sighted about if you want to change culture, you have to address the situation as it exists. Her method was developed working with children that were institutionalized for a variety of reasons, mostly for mental deficiency. They were housed in insane asylums. She worked with the poorest of the poor. She was a medical doctor, so she worked with um, people who couldn't afford, um, they didn't have running water in their homes. They didn't have any daycare for their kids, and both parents were working. She said, if you're going to change the world, you have to look at the world as it is and what do people need? What do they need to improve their situation? Because uh, her basic assumption was that people aren't poor because it's like their goal in life. You know, their children aren't sick and they can't afford medical care because that's the way they want it. I mean, she understood that people have the same needs, wants, and desires across the board, but we have to help facilitate environments that will enable them to fulfill their dreams for themselves and their kids.
That's the trick, to facilitate the kind of environment that will meet those needs.
Exactly.
How do you do that? How do you facilitate that kind of environment in a children's classroom?
Yes, see, that's what she realized was that the reason these so-called mentally deficient children weren't able to thrive is because they weren't given the proper environment that supported their development. So what she realizes kids are hardwired to learn and grow and develop and mature. You don't have to teach a baby how to learn language. They just do it,
Hmm.
right? So, but what do you do that facilitates their learning? Well, you look at how they learn.
Hmm.
They learn by absorbing the environment, by interacting with it. She's very understood children like the hands were their interface. Uh, that's why kids are always, can I touch it? I want to touch it. They put it in their mouths. This is how they're making sense of the world and interacting with it. So you have to have an environment that allows them to move freely according to the dictates of what their developmental needs are at that time, which means the adult role has to be diminished dramatically, right? The adult role is in setting up the environment and then getting out of the way so that the kids can move freely through it. Does
That's
that make
so
sense?
well, it makes sense, but it's so counterintuitive to the way that we typically think of education, where the teacher is the center of the room. Uh, and what Maria Montessori is saying is that the teacher needs to get out of the way and let the child be the center of the room. Correct?
Exactly. And it's something you've written about in your parenting blogs as well, that the parent needs to learn their proper role in the home and in relationship with the kids as well.
But it's still so counterintuitive for parents and for teachers because the adult is the one who is supposed to be in charge.
And indeed, exactly. You as well you should be.
So how does the adult stay in charge while still getting out of the way?
By structuring an environment that facilitates that. Um, Authority can be exercised behind the scenes, or it can be very dramatic and demand to be paid attention to, right?
Mm.
So it can be sort of a ham on stage about it, or you can be an ensemble player where you don't necessarily have to be a star, but you're an essential part of what's going on in the environment. And I think that's what parents need to understand and teachers as well, that their role is more like being an equal member of an ensemble with the children. The children have as vital a role in their own growth and development as you do in facilitating it.
Hmm. It's it's so helpful for me because I frequently find myself when I try to be um, kind of the center of my parenting household that I find myself getting into power struggles with my children.
Mhm.
And I imagine mimetic theory and Maria Montessori come in hand in this way, in that when you are modeling how to be the center of the household, that children are going to imitate that and try to be the power center of the household too. And that's how you get into these power struggles.
Yeah, yeah, it's so paradoxical because when you're in a power struggle, you just keep thinking that the kid is opposing you. Why is this child refusing to do what I say when actually, as you point out, they are slavishly imitating you. They are doing exactly what you're modeling for them to do and be, which is to have your own way and to have it now,
And
right?
so, in a very real sense, we scapegoat children for behaving badly when it's really we are the ones who are modeling this bad behavior for our children
Yeah, I
and project.
yeah,
Yeah,
I think it's very sad. It's a very sad commentary, but
yeah,
that's what we tend to do. We blame the children rather than accept responsibility for for failing in our role in the environment. We are the adults after all. We are the ones who are supposed to have the big picture, who are responsible for the safety and security of the kids. And when we abdicate that role in favor of, ego strokes or whatever we think we're getting out of obedience, um, it really is a failure to support our kids.
what you're getting at with this is changing our understanding of adulthood, of of parenthood.
Mm-hmm.
Because what I hear a lot of the typical understanding of what it means to be a parent is to have this kind of authoritarian role. And if your children are getting out of hand, then you need to make enforce your will upon them and make sure that they get back in line.
Right.
But what you're getting at here is kind of a transformation of that model of what it means to be a parent, which isn't an over and against our children, but much more of getting out of the way, as Maria Montessori would say, a kind of a withness with our children, being with them and not over and against them.
Right, right. Because I think you're right. As you transform how you think about children, you do transform how you think about what it means to be an adult. And one of the key shifts that we need to make is that children really do thrive on obeying us.
Mm.
They're hardwired to follow our lead in everything, which is how we get in trouble with power struggles. But obedience doesn't have to be taught to children. What we have to do is set the correct
Mm.
model that we want them to be obeying. We have to set the right directive, give the right direction, and we
Mm-hmm.
give that direction by our behavior and by the way we're relating to them. Not by what we say, by what we do and how we're being, as you say, what our relationship is with them.
This has, yes, this has profound implications for not just parenting, but for how to be in the broader world. I mean, when you talk about more peaceful cultures and a more peaceful world, this has implications clearly for our politics, where in our politics, the person with the loudest voice seems to be the one who's winning.
Yeah,
And
absolutely. Yeah,
and
it,
it's not a peaceful posture. You can tell this is a very violent political age that we are in. The loudest
mhm.
person wins. The loudest person gets the most attention, and everybody. That's the model that we have. Is there any hope for subverting that political model?
Yeah. Well, that's yeah. I hope so.
I
I
hope
mean,
so too.
the thing is, if you raise children in a conflictual model, they are going to grow up thinking that rivalry is the only way to get attention, that authority is only exercised through a dominance over and against thing. And they never really, children never really then get a chance to thrive and and learn this other sort of way of being in the world, which is a way in which um, relationships are mutually respectful rather than coercive. So that was what Montessori was trying to set up as environments that minimize rivalry, so that children follow their natural um, inner directives to learn, and when they're given that chance, they are very peaceful, quiet, calm, and they're more open to uh, becoming aware of other people around them. You know, that's the basis for community, is being able to be aware of others and what their needs are. So if your needs are being met for your own developmental growth, you can be open up to uh, being in tune with other people's needs and working with them for what they need.
Yeah, and one of the crucial insights that you've told me about that Maria has had is that you need to start this education at a very young age. I imagine that's because if you start creating this pattern of conflictual relationships, conflictual mimesis in the beginning of a person's life, it's very hard to break it. But
It is. It,
the same can be true for more cooperative relationships and cooperative mimesis. If you plant those seeds earlier on, there's a better chance for a more cooperative stance towards the world and towards one another.
I do think so because I think you create more secure people, people that are more comfortable with themselves because their own growth and development wasn't kind of stunted.
Mm.
It was allowed to proceed naturally. Um, and so, I mean, there's a lot you can talk about creativity and individual growth and how free will develops and all of those things in the classroom. But all of those things, you know, we have to learn how to exercise our will in the world in a way that's honors community and respects other individuals who also have free will
Mm.
and what happens in the world. So yeah, I mean, obviously we could talk about this for a long time.
Yes. And I just want to say if you want to keep up with Suzanne's thoughts on this, please go to her YouTube channel where she posts very frequently. What's the YouTube channel called, Suzanne?
The Montessori Project.
The Montessori Project. Also, you have a Facebook page called the Montessori Project.
I think the Facebook page is the Maria Montessori Project.
The Maria Montessori Project. So you can keep up with Suzanne's videos and her Facebook posts over there. And thank you for the conversation, Suzanne. It's been great.
That was fun.
Awesome. Well, I hope to do it again sometime. And thanks everybody for listening and watching in. And we'll talk again soon. Bye bye.